virtually. In consideration of others and the business conducted tonight, please silence your phones and any electronic devices and refrain from speaking unless recognized. Again, this is a public meeting for the community of Glendora. We appreciate and respect your participation here this evening. Madam Clerk, please conduct the roll call.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'll conduct an oral roll call. If you could please respond with a present when your name is called. Trustee Flowers,
Present.
Trustee Flowers is participating virtually. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes, ma'am, I'm present.
Okay, we're not hearing anything.
I am present.
Okay. Trustee Johnson? Oh, Landman Johnson. I'm
What?
sorry.
No, just
Present?
Landman.
Land-
Landman. Present.
Oh, Johnson is Carrie. She's absent. Sorry. Trustee Toland?
Present.
And then Vice President Landman,
Present.
and then President Chu.
Present.
Okay, we have 4 trustees present.
Mm-mm.
Stephen, can you unmute yourself and we'll do a quick test?
Testing. Can you hear me? Hello?
Testing.
Test, test. Test. Can you hear me?
Give us 1 second.
Yes, ma'am.
Stephen, can you try it again?
Testing.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Help if you left and tried to come back in?
Can you, Stephen, can you disconnect and then re-enter, re-log into Zoom and see if that fixes it?
Yes.
Oh.
Can you hear
Testing.
me?
I can hear you.
Oh. Good evening, and I am present and welcome everybody.
No. It's the rain. It's messing everything up.
Okay, Erica, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Certainly. Okay. All right. Put your hand on your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, does anyone wish to reorder or add to the agenda tonight? Seeing nobody, then we will now open up the public comment period. I now invite members of the public to address the library board. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes, speaking once on both on and off agenda items. All questions should be directed through the presiding officer. This is your time to speak uninterrupted. If you are in attendance, please fill out a speaker card and submit it to the recording admin before the close of the public comment period. Once recognized, speakers should advance to the podium, state your name and the subject matter you wish to discuss. If you are participating via Zoom, select the raise hand icon in Zoom before the close of the public comment period. Once recognized, you will be unmuted, state your name and the subject matter you wish to discuss. Is there anybody who has any public comment cards that would like to speak?
We've received no public comment cards. If there's anybody participating via Zoom that would like to speak, if you could please raise your Zoom hand. On. Nobody.
Okay, then I will close the public comment period and move on to board statements and reports. Does any trustees have any reports or announcements? Erica?
I do. I have a few. I would like to ask to adjourn tonight's meeting in memory of Mr. Dennis Willett. Mr. Willett was very passionate about the Glendora Public Library access to the public records as well as ADA accessibility. As he's also super concerned about the well-being of the library, the structure and the integrity of it as well. He was always very concerned about the leaks and when it would rain and how it would hold up. So that's one thing. The other thing was I went to the Friends Foundation Library Trivia Challenge, and President Chu, you were one of the judges. That was cool. Very well done. That was a fun event, and I was really happy to see how many people had attended. So that everybody looked like they had a great time, and that was awesome. Another thing was went to the State of the City meeting last week, and it was really ran phenomenally well. That was cool. All the different department heads came and spoke, and not necessarily the caboose, but it was Director Stone did one of the most phenomenally impassioned speeches of the mid-afternoon or mid-morning, however you want to call it, lunch. It's not morning, but right there. So that was very well done. So congratulations. So that was great. And then sadly, just one other thing, I unfortunately missed the reading for the Dr. Seuss day over at Washington Elementary. I was supposed to go over, but I was available too late in the day, so I was sad. So instead, I'm just going to contact them and see if I could read something on the side another day earlier, hopefully. So that's it. So thank you.
Thank you for those updates. Anyone else? Okay. Oh, yes, Stephen.
Stephen, you need to unmute yourself.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And tonight I want to share a few quick items. First, this week, our nation marks 20 years since the start of the Second Gulf War in Iraq. I want any veteran of any time who is within the sound of my voice to know that the Glendora Public Library sees you. Our leadership, our staff, and myself personally, we honor your commitment, and we wish to serve with dignity and faithfulness as well, in the best tradition that is the Glendora Library. The Glendora Public Library strives to offer the utmost of our considerable resources as you continue your journey, and we offer it to not only yourself, but your family and all of our patrons as well. Secondly, on March 4th, I attended a microaggression forum hosted by the Glendora Together Committee at the Legion Hall here in Glendora. Also in attendance were Mayor Pro Tem Thompson, Councilmember Davis, former council members and mayors Kuhn and Judy Nelson, Glendora Unified School District Board members Lopez and Garcia, Congresswoman Judy Chu, and scores of our community leaders who each initiated conversation on diversity, civics, and us all being good neighbors. I was reminded how proud I am that the Glendora Public Library has continued to be a gathering space, serving all people, regardless of income, color, race, religion, national origin, ability, or their gender. Third, police ride-along. On Thursday, March 16th, I participated in a police ride-along to the Glendora Police Department, our block neighbor just south of this building. I was inspired by the courtesy, the dignity, and the impartiality of our police force as demonstrated by our local station. I especially wish to add thanks to Officers Meeks and Nick Pinsky and the Citizens Academy as well. Fourth, Empty Bowls and the Glendora Trivia Night. This year, the Trivia Challenge was scheduled the same night as the 20th anniversary of the Empty Bowls event, which is a local initiative to address hunger in our community. Both of these events were gazetted on the same night. And though I could not attend both, I was glad to see that Director Stone and Councilwoman Davis, Michael Alawas, Chief Egan, and the police auxiliary, whom each I knew were splitting their valuable time and their devotion, attended the Empty Bowls event along with me. And I want to say that Glendora is benefited by love such as theirs. This concludes my report. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Stephen. Yeah, there's a bunch of events that were happening this past month. And one last event that I would like to share is just about 2 weeks ago or a week ago, I attended one of the strategic planning meetings ran by the city council, and we I think the agenda is available online if you guys were interested in what topics they were talking about. And there was just a few strategic items that they included the library in for the coming 2 years, which was nice to see. Okay. Now on to the report from the library director. Janet?
Thank you. Good to see everyone. Is it officially the first day of spring yet, or is that tomorrow? Today. Happy spring, everyone. So first of all, I want to echo my congratulations to the Friends Foundation on the Great Trivia Challenge. Cheers to them for really a wonderful evening, and also, great fundraiser. We just appreciate the fact that they are serving the community, offering the community opportunities, and that they choose the library as their way of doing that. So thank you so much to everyone who made that possible. And before I get into some sort of administrative updates, I would like to invite to the podium Librarian 2 Gaetano Abundanza, who has some research things to share with you that the staff took on.
All right, good evening. So as librarians, we periodically receive research requests from the public, or in this case, from another city department. And so the background, this request came from the Community Services Department. It was related to Camp Kauai. And so the background was that they were planning a series of events related to Camp Kauai and Glendora's connection to the Kauai tribe. And so the research request was twofold. One, find everything we could on the Kauai tribe, and secondly, on the connection to Glendora. So we worked on this as a team. Everyone worked independently, but sent me their information. I kind of looked through and collated it while I was crafting a response. And so the first thing we noticed was that, interestingly, everything we found on the Kauai tribe, nothing we found placed them in our area, not in the San Gabriel Valley, and certainly not in Glendora. What we found was that their ancestral and current lands to this day are much further to the east in the Palm Springs area. So this begged the question, well, how did that term get attached to a wilderness area in our backyard? So we scoured the local history, our local history sources, books, oral histories, websites, anything we could find. And we looked, and we looked, we looked, we looked, and there was not a single source as to the genesis of that term. However, we did uncover a document from the 1980s, and this is simply titled Glendora Wilderness Park Report. This was compiled by Dick Swinney of the Parks and Rec Department for the city. It was actually the last in a series of reports. And so there is a paragraph in here which touches on this topic. I'm going to just read this verbatim. Another name referring to this facility is Camp Cahuilla. This name is especially inappropriate as the Cahuilla Indians never occupied this immediate area, but were found considerably further east of the Morongo Palm Springs area. Our local native tribe populations were the Tongva, later called the Gabrielino, which is what we found, that the tribes of this area is the Tongva tribe, also known as the San Gabrielino Band of Mission Indians. So, compiled, sent an email to community services and basically said, this may not be what you're expecting to hear, but there's no connection between the tribe, the Cahuilla, and Glendora. And so my understanding is that they are reconsidering the name of the area. And so as a librarian, as a researcher, you have to be able to follow the path wherever it takes you. And in this case, part of the process was uncovering a document that had been filed away a long time ago. And so, yeah, it was very interesting, one of our more interesting recent research topics. The other part is to something we've already brought up, the trivia challenge. And it's been going on over 30 years. It's put on by the Foundation for the Library. And so any type of this is, of course, it's a quiz show, elimination style. And so whether you're talking about Jeopardy or all the way down to your local neighborhood bar and grill Monday night trivia night, someone has to write the questions and they have to be sourced. Hopefully they're sourced, right? Because if there's ever any dispute over the accuracy of an answer, you have to be able to look back and say, well, this is the source for our answer. This is where we got it from. So this year, the Friends Foundation approached the library for some assistance. They asked us to compile 30 questions related to the topics of technology and pop culture. So we went about the same way. We worked on it as a team, and we each looked it up on our own. And I compiled the sources and made sure we had a question, an answer, and an actual citation with a link. And so we sent that off to the Friends Foundation. And I wasn't at the event, but out of all the questions, I think some of them at least were used from the ones that we had provided. So yeah, that's part of our job as well as librarians. We might be the camp counselors to camp information, right? We don't know where everything is, but we know where to find it, what paths to go down and what paths to avoid. And that's crucial, especially in today's world. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Gaetano. So when we report on our responsibilities, we talked about making sure that the world of ideas is in context. More formally, we call these our interpretation and context services. Basically, the idea is that we provide a greater understanding of information accuracy, perception, and influence. And this is just a couple of examples of how we do that. And we sort of take it for granted, but it occurs to us that not everybody knows we do this kind of thing. And we're delighted to be of service to the community should you need this kind of research. So anyway, just wanted to have Gaetano talk a little bit about that today. Thank you, sir. So moving on to a few administrative updates to the written report that is in your board packet. It's available online for the public in its entirety. Just a few things. It's been a busy season because of city strategic planning and budgeting. And so I just wanted to bring you up to date a little bit on that. It was already mentioned that the city conducted a pretty much day-long strategic planning session on March 9th. And that in the documents for that meeting are available online. So they're not duplicated again in your packet. They're available there for the public. And I'm not going to go through them in great detail. There are a few things from that meeting, from that packet, that involve things that we have been wondering about or waiting for or looking for updates on. So I thought I'd pull out a few of those and mention them as updates to the library's report. So first of all, in the strategic planning documents for earlier this month, there's a mention. Oh, I should also talk about where the status of these documents. So there were these working documents that came to the strategic planning meeting. They were discussed at length and in great depth, and they the results of that discussion will be written up and taken back to council for actual formal action. So none of this has been adopted yet by council. These are from the draft documents that were created for that discussion. So among the things that were on that list, I am happy to say included a task of some community-based placemaking that is to include some civic buildings and, possible changes to the civic complex. This is under the city's overall goal of implementing strategic economic development. And in particular, an objective to create a vision and development plan for the Village and Gold Line area. And this has appeared before, and they're digging deeper into some of these tasks. So this idea of this placemaking, obviously, if it includes the Civic Center, is also going to include the library. So again, that's going to go on the proposals that we expect to see going to council. It's not clear at what level of detail those tasks will be included, but under that vision and development plan, that is one of them that was presented at least for discussion at the strategic planning session. So of course, that also intersects with the structural analysis that's being done of the building, because we all know that there's a structural or scientific component to that. And there is also a separate programmatic, well, overlapping really programmatic component to that. So one is going to address things like how well the building will stand up to an earthquake. And the other part is going to address what we want to do with the building, and therefore what we need the building, like what we need the structure to be capable of. And so as this firm does its analyses, they'll be taking both of those things into consideration. So obviously that kind of planning, there's again an overlap with this idea of the placemaking in the civic center. The scientific part, so to speak, of the structural assessment is already underway. They came and took some core samples and will be continuing with that analysis. And the programmatic assessment kicks off tomorrow and will be unfolding over some weeks to come. So just wanted to share that. And also just to affirm, since you have seen for several years, well, ongoing really, that we always try to plan for a joint meeting with the city council, because we anticipate there will be a lot of meeting to come in terms of the structure and what we want it to do for us, that we are kind of waiting to have those data available before we call both groups together and get back into that joint planning process. So that's one of the things I wanted to point out. Another one is that there is under maintaining financial stability and sustainability, there is a potential task for conducting a comprehensive fee study across the city. The objective that this falls under in the draft is to safeguard long-term security of revenues to fund core public services. And just wanted to share that and acknowledge that your work in making a recommendation to council about removing the overdue fees for the public. If the council adopts that would start July 1st. And also as a way of also just talking for a moment about the current budget process that we're in, the fee schedule is one of those elements that we address at this time of year. We're ahead of the game because you've already put in some work on that for us. Those updates are due from the departments to finance in April. And just a reminder that in May, the library board will be getting its budget and capital improvements presentation. Usually that's from the city as well as from me as the director, before that whole package of the budget elements and the fee schedule go to the city council usually in June. So anyway, wanted to acknowledge that. Any questions so far? Okay. Another thing that continues to be on the strategic plan draft is the library classification and compensation review. This falls under the larger goal of enhancing employment development and retention. And it is a carryover. And I just wanted to let you know that a brief kickoff meeting is tentatively scheduled for me and key folks in administrative services on March 27th. So that's exciting to see that actually hit the calendar. And then that's just a brief touch base, and we'll know more about what's to unfold over the coming months after that meeting's happened. Let's see. There's been an interest for some months, I know, on the board to know more about the city's communication strategic plan. And again, all of this is draft. There's, documents still that need to be formulated to go to council for formal consideration. But the ones that were presented and are available on the website from this last strategic planning session included a pretty good amount of detail about about what might be folded into this communication strategic plan. So I just thought I'd share some of those steps with some of those tasks with you. So for example, they're talking about defining the communication plan vision and purpose, developing a communications task force, evaluating ways for the city council and boards and commissions to engage in more robust information sharing, to also evaluate ways to communicate with different groups in town. And for example, the Ministerial Association and Service Clubs, to develop a strategic communications and marketing outline for 2 to 4 years, and to find ways to engage the community through feedback and other kinds of communication. So I know that the communication plan, that whole project has been going through an evolution. And since that's its most recent sort of manifestation in city documents, I just wanted to share some of those steps with you. And we'll know more, of course, as that is written up and proposed to council, and then as it unfolds in the months to follow. Another one that this isn't necessarily so recent for the library board, but it is kind of a historic thing for us, under the goal of improving and maintaining the city's infrastructure and facilities. There is an objective to undertake a comprehensive update to the city's sign code to promote local businesses and community assets. One of the potential tasks there is to create a directional signage design standard to enhance various community assets. And that includes city facilities and parks. And there's long been discussion about the signage in and around the library, and what opportunities we could be taking advantage of in terms of signage. So it looks like that's going to be addressed on a citywide level, and I wanted to point that out. A couple of other things that I wanted to mention that have been, lingering for us. One is this exploration of what might happen here with the city council chambers. And I understand that there's an alternative layout that tentatively might go to the city council in April for consideration. And right now, there are currently no expected impacts on Bidwell Forum in terms of scheduling the chamber meetings in Bidwell Forum. I would imagine that could change, but right now we have not been asked to clear any of the calendar for that. So just wanted to update you on that piece. And finally, the strategic planning tomorrow, our National Library Week, which runs the April 23rd through 29th. And we're anticipating a proclamation from council at the meeting on the 25th of April, and then also the mayor's prayer breakfast on April 26th. You know how to reach out to us as if you want to attend those things, and we will work the schedules. So that's what Gabby and I are there for. I think that's it for my verbal additions to the written report that's available online. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Does anybody have questions? Okay. Thank you, Janet. So we will now move on to special items. Agenda item number 3, update on teleconferencing regulations and appointed officials' participation in public meetings. Kathleen.
Thank you very much. Tonight I'm here to present a very brief PowerPoint. Can you go to the next slide? And one more. This PowerPoint will go over basically the teleconferencing rules that are now associated with the termination of the California State of Emergency Declaration that got signed in February. And this will impact all of our elected officials and appointed officials. So just to provide you with a brief background, on September 16th, the governor signed Assembly Bill 361 into law, and this allowed for legislative bodies to continue to do remote participation in meetings during the declaration of the state of emergency, provided that the city or the local agency complied with specific requirements that were outlined in the executive order. The city of Glendora had been utilizing AB 361 to utilize hybrid format of its public meetings from September 28th, 2021 through December 13th, 2022. Once then the governor back in September, in preparation for the closure of the state of emergency, passed Assembly Bill 2449, which allows elected and appointed officials to still to attend virtually, but there's a new set of rules associated with that, which we're going to go over shortly. So next slide, please. Currently, there are 3 ways elected and appointed officials can attend teleconference public meetings teleconference by using teleconferencing. The first one is the traditional Brown Act. The second one is the state of emergency, and that was the AB 361, which the city no longer can utilize because the state of emergency has no longer in effect. And then the third one is what we are going to call the justification method, which is AB 2449. Now, most of this presentation will be going over what is required under 2449 because it has the biggest impact on how we run the public meetings in Glendora. Next slide, please. This slide will outline Assembly Bill 2449 and really what it is. It went into effect on January 1st of 2023. It changes the requirements of virtual meetings. It allows for a non-majority of legislative body members to utilize teleconferencing participation for meetings without complying to the traditional Brown Act requirements under specific and certain circumstances. It also allows legislative bodies to have the option of meeting via teleconference without the Brown Act, but it's based on just cause and emergency circumstances. It also includes, has specific requirements that elected and appointed officials have to meet in order to utilize this option. Next slide, please. AB 2449, these will outline the requirements that have to be done on the elected or an appointed official side. A request needs to be submitted as to the just cause or emergency circumstance in which you are requesting to participate virtually. The member publicly discloses before any action is taken whether any individuals 18 years or older are present at the remote location and general nature of the relationship. Members participate through both audio and video technology. And then a member's participation may not exceed 3 consecutive months or 20% of the regular meetings held within a single calendar year for that legislative body. Next slide. The first option is under just cause. So if you have a childcare issue, caregiving, an illness, physical or mental disability, or you're traveling on official city, state, or federal business, it is limited to the number of times you could utilize this option each calendar year. A notice to the legislative body must be submitted at the earliest opportunity. Legislative body approval is needed, and then you must be webcasting two-way, both audio and video throughout the meeting. And if for some reason if the remote participant gets either disconnected or there's an issue in the main building, the meeting needs to be stopped and postponed to another date. The second one, next slide, is emergency circumstance. This is defined by the bill as a physical or family medical emergency. Requesting member must submit the request again as soon as possible. The member's legislative body must take action to approve the request at its earliest opportunity. And what this means is does have to go to city council. And then separate requests are required for each remote participation, as well as a majority vote of the legislative body is required. So next slide, please. So there's a form that has been submitted, handed out to each of you. Stephen, I'll have give a copy to Janet so she can send you a copy of the form. The attached form is what we will be utilizing to accept and route these requests. So you're still allowed to participate virtually through the regular traditional Brown Act meetings. So what this form will allow us to do is requesters can fill this out. The clerk's office will review it and provide a determination on which methodology you should utilize for whatever that particular circumstance is. And we'll reach out to you and then work on getting the basics and everything listed. Just to remind you, the traditional Brown Act teleconferencing rules requires that the remote locations have the agenda posted 72 hours prior to the meeting. It requires that the place be open and available to the public. So a public should be able to, one, come and see you, participate through the meeting virtually, provide public comment. So you can't, you are not able to do traditional Brown Act and be in a hotel room unless your door is open and people know exactly how to access you. So that normally creates some confusion. So we normally don't recommend it under those circumstances. Reviewing the form available to you as you go through it. If you have any questions or have any concerns about anything, just let us know. Go ahead and next slide. If you're filling out the form, basically fill it out as soon as possible. If you have questions, call the clerk's office and you can submit it electronically or in person. If you're sick, don't come into the clerk's office. Feel free to email it to us. We can do most of what we would need to do over the phone. And then we're hoping that evaluating these and then providing the direction you'll need for how to participate remotely should be a relatively quick turnover. So again, in conclusion, you are still allowed to participate in public meetings virtually, but now there is a significant process that goes along with that procedure. So if you have any questions, feel free to call the clerk's office and let us know. Again, fill out the form at your earliest convenience, and then AB 2449 is set to expire in 2025, and they do anticipate having additional rules by that time. I'm available for any questions you might have.
Thank you. Does anybody have questions? Erica?
I have a question. Okay, you had mentioned that for a certain instance that the council has to approve.
The council has to approve all of these requests if it's under SB 2449. We've received legal guidance from the city attorney that the library board will not approve library board requests. The council will have to approve all of those. So that's why we're saying, as soon as you know there might be an issue, let us know.
Not that I plan on
Mhm.
doing this, but in the event the council does not get to approve it, then what happens?
So then theoretically you can't, if we can't get council's approval quickly enough, we would actually provide guidance on how to deal with it from a regular Brown Act procedure, or look at what those other options are at that time. I know it's a little, it's a interesting bill.
Thank you. Last chance for questions on this before we move on. Seeing nobody, we will now move on to the consent calendar, items number 4 through 6. Items on the consent calendar will be enacted by one motion without individual discussion unless a board member has requested to remove it for separate discussion. Does anyone wish to pull or comment on any of the consent calendar items? Seeing no one, then may I, nope, we don't need to, we're just gonna file and receive these.
No, I have a motion by Vice President Erica Landman, if I could get a second. Okay, and I have a second by Trustee Toland, and I'm gonna do an oral roll call vote. Stephen, if you could unmute your phone, perfect. Trustee Flowers?
Aye.
Trustee Johnson is absent. Trustee Toland?
Aye.
And President Landman
Aye.
and President Chu.
Aye.
Motion carries. You are absent. So you were. Four zero with one absent.
Okay, great. And those are all of our agenda items. Is there any closing comments from trustees or staff? No? Yes, Erica.
Sorry. I was just wondering, how did we decide to proceed about the basket for the night on the plaza? Was that just discussed off to the side, or?
So that was identified as an agenda item at a future meeting. And we looked at it for this meeting, but the foundation has not yet released their flyer about the different donation levels and all of that information. So it seemed a little premature to bring it to you now. So once that information is available, we'll agendize it for your discussion.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, then I will adjourn the meeting at,
In honor of,
in honor of Mr. Willits, which we all miss him very much. He was a very vital community member. But yes. We will adjourn at 7:49 p.m.